All right, we'll give everybody a few moments to filter in. But welcome everybody to another episode of Fitter and Faster Live. I'm two-time Olympic swimmer Chloe Sutton and the vice president of the Fitter and Faster Swim Tour. And today we're going to be doing my little mental training workshop, talking about mental strength, dealing with disappointment. Yeah, and we've also got Tyler Clary here, Olympic gold medalist, no big deal.
I'm definitely water safe.
Yeah. How are you doing, Tyler?
I'm good. It's another Monday in quarantine. You know how it goes, but it's kind of funny because life's not terribly different for me because, I work from home now. So I had kind of like a week of lead into this kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yep. We've got some snow on the ground here. I live in Reno. You guys over in the chat, why don't you tell us where you're from, what swim team you're on? Love to hear it. Oh, Lincoln's here. Hey, Lincoln. Lincoln is a good buddy of mine. He goes to a lot of swim camps with me.
Awesome.
All right. I am going to go ahead and start jumping into this presentation. Looks like we've got quite a few people here. We'll keep the chat open for now, but Tyler will be keeping an eye on it. If it starts to get irrelevant questions, spam, and anything inappropriate, he'll either kick you out of the room or he'll turn off the chat. So we'll go ahead and get started. So this is a presentation. Let's see. Start. This is a presentation I made quite a few years ago because I just knew there was a need for a lot of the swim teams that I'd go to teach swimming things with Fitter and Faster. I'd also kind of present this mental training workshop. I've done this all around the country. And it's just, I feel like it's really simple, but I think it's a lot of things that are really good to keep in mind. And though I created this presentation, there are things that I need to remember myself a lot because I tend to preach, all of these. I have 6 main points in this presentation. I tend to preach all these things about positive attitude and believing in yourself, but then I go about my daily life and I forget about it. And so it's really good for me also to remind myself, about what's important and how to stay mentally strong. So first of all, this presentation is all in terms of swimming. Tyler and I are both Olympians. And I sat down one day, I wanted to know how cool it was to actually go to the Olympics. So in 2012, which is the team that both Tyler and I were on, there were 370,000 members in USA Swimming. Of those, about 1,800 people competed at Olympic trials. Now, I come from a big family of football players. 1,800 people competing at Olympic trials is about the same as how many people are in the NFL. So if you swim in Olympic trials, that you're, and that's with both boys and girls. So it's like double the odds to play in the NFL than it actually is to even compete at the Olympic trials. But of those 1,800 people, 49 swimmers make the Olympic team. That's it. And that
honestly, I didn't even know this. So I'm learning something right now.
Yeah. And, it's those odds seem to me like if I was to start out my career knowing those odds and not really knowing what I could do to improve my odds, then that would be kind of scary. So it's 0.0049% of swimmers even make it to the Olympic trials. Okay, so if you've got somebody on your team or in your area, or somebody who is going to be swimming at Olympic trials next year, whoa, right? Like that's huge. That's like such a huge accomplishment. And then look at that second number, 0.0001% of swimmers, of people who are actually registered in USA Swimming. So not even including the summer league swimmers, not even including high school swimmers, people who are enrolled in USA Swimming make an Olympic team.
And before we go on, though, I want to jump in and talk about that for a second, because a lot of people, I actually at the beginning of a lot of my clinics, I'll talk about the fact that it's less than 1/1000% chance that a swimmer in the U.S. will go to the Olympics, and it's really funny because I'm really big on body language, and a lot of times, when I talk about that statistic, I'll see 2 things happen. One, the chin will go down and then shoulders will go forward. It looks, kind of like this. And people don't realize it, but when they hear those numbers, they immediately give up instead of realizing that like it's an interesting statistic, but in terms of your performance, it really means nothing, right? Like it's something that shows how elite the Olympians are and the Olympic trial swimmers are. But most people will look at that statistic and look at it the wrong way. And we're going to get into this in a little bit, but the best athletes in the world, I don't even want to just say swimmers, the best athletes in the world are able to take those types of situations and turn it into something that's a confidence builder, right? Because the best athletes in the world will look at it in a completely opposite way. For example, one of the examples I use is height, right? I'm 6 foot on a good day. And I used to swim against guys that are upwards of like 6'8", 6'9". Like I used to swim against a guy named Matt Grievers, who's this jolly green giant who could probably eat me in one sitting if he wanted. But he, you know, with people that would swim against him, I'd watch them walk into the ready room and they would do the exact same thing. Chin would go forward and shoulders would go forward. And they look at them and just say, oh, there's no way that I can overcome somebody that's that much taller. Or in this case, there's no way I think I'll be able to be a part of that tiny group. And you have to look at it differently. So for example, if I'm swimming against Matt Grievers and we're both in the finals at the Olympic trials and we're in lane 4 and 5, for example, most people would agree that we've gone about the same time, maybe plus or minus a second, maybe 2 at a max. So what people fail to realize is that before you even step in the water, if I'm 6 foot and he's 6'9", and we've gone basically the same time, that means before we even set foot in the water, I'm the better swimmer, or at least I'm more efficient. So to apply that same train of thinking to these statistics that are up on the screen, the people who end up making the Olympic team can look at that statistic and say, all right, that's a really small group of people. But I also realize that the grand majority of people out there are going to look at that statistic and be terrified of it, instead of realizing that if I just put it in the back of my head and realize that everybody else is going to look at that and be scared, that already gives me the advantage, right? So it's about changing how you think. It's reconditioning your mind to look at all these daily situations that you encounter. And by the way, this doesn't even apply just to swimming. This applies to everything. You know, you turn everyday situations into a confidence builder. So sorry about that.
No, you're good. That was excellent. Yeah, the whole point of this section, right, is not to scare you. It's not to tell you that your chances of making an Olympic team or your chances of achieving whatever goal you have set for yourself are impossible. It's about how can you overcome those odds. And I really look at it very black and white. Every time that I do something, whether it be in the pool, out of the pool, in nutrition, recovery, mental, anything, watching a webinar like you guys are doing right now, anytime I do anything that's helping me get closer to my goal, I'm taking that number, that 0.0001, and I'm making it a little bit bigger, right? I'm making it 0.0002. And over time, if you guys work really hard, that number becomes, then all of a sudden you're 49 people out of the 1,800 at Olympic trials that have a chance at making an Olympic team. Then you make it to the semifinals and you're 1 in 16 or 2 in 16, right? And then you make it to the final and you're 2 in 8. You have a 1 in 4 chance of making an Olympic team. Everything that you do, everything that you do to try to improve yourself is helping those odds. So overcome the odds, give yourself a better shot at achieving your dreams by all of the things that you guys are already doing, all the things that you know you need to do, and by practicing mental strength. So my first point in this presentation is give yourself permission to dream. Tell yourself that you are worthy of being that 1 in 10,000 or however many 100,000 people that actually does get to go to the Olympics. And Tyler, I actually am going to call on you here because you explain this better than anybody I know. Can you explain why not me?
Yeah. So why not me is just a little phrase that I use to, like, one of my styles of coaching is I try to use like little phrases and funny sayings to help get a stronger point across. And, you know, at our clinics, like I use our clinics that we do regularly as a lot of examples, because there are a lot of opportunities for interaction where you can learn things about people. And what happens at the very so for anybody who's not, by the way, let us know in chat if you've ever been to one of our clinics or if you've not ever been to one of our clinics. But I'm going to go over kind of what happens at the very beginning.
Well,
so yeah, that works too. So at the very beginning of the clinic, there's a sign-in desk and people will come and sign in, and there's usually a backdrop up, and swimmers that come to our clinics get the opportunity to take pictures with our clinicians and me in this example. And what I like to do is give everybody that takes a picture with me the opportunity to put my gold medal around their neck. So if you've never been to a clinic with me, make sure you sign up once this is all past us and you get to wear my gold medal. But what's really interesting about it is a lot of times I'll hear comments from swimmers, parents, sometimes coaches that are like, oh, you're really going to have to improve to do that. Or at the worst, oh, this is the closest you're ever going to get to an Olympic gold medal. And that's really sad. But what I think that shows is that humans in general have this tendency to focus on the reasons or the chances that something might not happen. Right? It's so easy to think, oh, well, that's just some crazy goal that I'll never be able to achieve. And again, I think that the best athletes in the world have this ability to think in the opposite. Instead of thinking, why me, they think, why not me? And I want to challenge everybody that's in chat to start asking yourselves, why not me, at least once a day? It can relate to swimming. It can relate to anything else. Parents, if you're on here, why not me? Why not you being promoted for that next higher up position that you've been wanting? And the idea is that it gives yourself this permission to dream. Instead of shutting yourself down internally, it allows your mind to open up to the possibility, not the probability, but the possibility that you could do something amazing. So why not me is meant to condition your mind to do what we were talking about just a few minutes ago. Find everyday situations that become a strength, or at least become an opportunity for growth or an opportunity for success. I think that's what Chloe's getting at.
Yeah, exactly. Give yourself permission to dream. Ask yourself, why not me? Be brave enough to go for it, regardless of knowing the probability. Yeah, like Tyler said, give yourself the possibility of doing it. So I have a Teddy Roosevelt quote here that's one of my favorite quotes. Far better is it to dare mighty things, to win glorious triumphs, even though checkered by failure, than to rank with those poor spirits who neither enjoy much because they live in that gray twilight that knows neither victory nor defeat. So it's all about putting yourself out there and going for it. It's so much fun. It's a fun journey no matter what. And I've never met anybody that's regretted going for something, right? I've never met anybody that set out to achieve something and wished that they hadn't. I mean, everybody who attacks a goal and goes for it has an incredible experience. And what if you actually were able to do it? I used to ask myself that all the time. I remember telling my mom, like, Mom, what if I actually do this? What if I get to go to the Olympics, And it's like, yeah, that's pretty cool. So my next point, number 2, is about setting goals. And we talked about this last week with Kat Simonovic, about creating goal systems. Now, I'm going to show you guys my little goal system. Kat, last week, she showed us lily padding, right? Smaller goals that kind of help you jump to bigger goals. And I do something very similar. So when I set goals, I start out with a dream goal. So I start out with, for me, it was the Olympics. I closed my eyes and I pictured, okay, if I'm going to be a swimmer, what is the biggest, most exciting thing that I could think to do? What's the most amazing thing that I could accomplish if I'm going to do that? And I just tend to be that kind of person. When I set out to do something, I never go, oh, okay, I'm going to do this thing, but I'm just going to be okay at it. If I'm going to go play laser tag with my friends, I have to be the best in the whole place, right? So I'm just that kind of person. So when I started swimming when I was 6 years old, I came out of my first practice and told my mom I was going to go to the Olympics. And so that's your dream goal. And I call it a dream goal because it's something that really right now might not be possible. It's something that is very far away. It's right now, it's still a dream. It's not quite a goal. It's something that's going to take a lot of time and effort in order to achieve. But one of the metaphors that I like to use when I'm talking about goal setting is I ask everybody, how do you eat an elephant? In the chat, you guys tell me, how do you eat an elephant? Does anybody know? It's a fun little question I ask because the answer is one bite at a time. No matter what, if you're trying to accomplish something huge, if you're trying to tackle an amazing task, you have to do it piece by piece. You've got to build the wall one step at a time, lay one brick by one brick by one brick. And so setting that dream goal means you have to break it down into smaller goals. So
exactly.
Yeah, luckily within swimming, you guys have long-term goals really laid out for you. You start out by maybe qualifying for an invitational meet, and then you maybe qualify for Junior Olympics, and then maybe you qualify for sectionals, and then Junior Nationals, and then then you qualify for US Open, and then Nationals, and then Olympic trials, and then you final Olympic trials, and then you go to the Olympics, right? You have this path kind of laid out for you as to how you should progress through the sport. And you might not get that next long-term goal for about a year or two. So these long-term goals are still pretty far apart, right? Long-term goals are still things that you should accomplish either within the year or within the next couple of years, or maybe even within the next 3 years, depending on where you are in your career. But those long-term goals are still fairly far apart. And so still, if I'm going to practice every day and I'm trying to work hard, but I know that I might be able to get this goal by the end of the year, it's hard for me to stay focused. It's hard for me to stay motivated every single day. So those long-term goals also have to be split up into pieces, right? And so they have to be split up into your short-term goals. So short-term goals are what you maybe want to accomplish within the next month or two, maybe at the next swim meet. So these can be, qualifying for that meet that you're trying to get to compete at for your long-term goal. But when we get into these short-term goals, they don't have to be as many qualifying for this or getting this time or breaking this barrier. Short-term goals can also be streamlining a certain number of dolphin kicks off of every wall, maintaining a breathing pattern through your whole race. I know for me, at a certain point in my career, I was a 2-beat kicker, so I'd take 1 kick per stroke. I'd have a really slow kick, and that was great when I was an open water swimmer. It allowed me to conserve a lot of energy. But when I decided I wanted to be a pool swimmer and I started trying to swim the 200, 400, and 800 freestyles, my coach looked at me one day and said, you have to 6-beat kick, which means the normal kicking rate where you do 3 kicks per stroke. You have to 6-beat kick all of practice and every race from here on out. And that was my short-term goal for a few months, or even just to finish a practice where I kept my legs going the whole time. It was really hard, but I knew that if I was able to 6-beat kick all of practice in every race, that short-term goal was going to get me closer to my long-term goal that year. And my long-term goal is going to help me get closer to my dream goal. And so just like Kat was talking about last week, I'm creating these lily pads that I can kind of hop to in order to get to that goal that I'm really focused on. Now,
yeah, and one of the, sorry, I just want to interject with something that John Urbanchek used to always say to me. And it really challenged me because I had not until the latter part of my career been somebody who was like a goal setter. I was just kind of like always trying to swim as fast as I could. And I know that there are a lot of people that are out there and that do that. And I know that for some people that makes them successful. It worked for me. But even later in my career, I started setting goals. And what John used to always say to me was that a goal without a plan is nothing but a dream, because you have no way of getting there. By goal setting, you're giving yourself that roadmap, which I think is what Chloe's so eloquently describing here, is a way to get to your dream goal. Mm-hmm. So if, think chat, like what's
Tyler, I can't hear you. I'm going to go ahead and, I can hear you now. You're back.
You can hear me now?
Yeah, you're back. You just disappeared for like 5 seconds.
Okay. So what I was saying is again, that it's a dream, or a goal without a plan is nothing but a dream. So I want chat to ask yourselves, think about what the biggest dream is that you can think of. It should be kind of scary, like something that by the statistics is probably not likely to happen. That doesn't mean that it won't. It just means that it's a really difficult goal. And I want you to think about a lot of different ways that you might be able to set smaller goals to get to that. Give yourself a roadmap. And that's exactly what I think Chloe is so eloquently trying to describe here.
Yeah, exactly. So the last level of goal is probably my favorite. I love practice. I know not everybody does. A lot of people prefer to race, but I love training. And something that I would do, I was very lucky that I would show up to practice really early, like a lot of times an hour early. And I would go into my coach's office and I would sit down with him and we would go over the practice for that day. And I would insist on him telling me exactly what I needed to do. Or I would discuss with him exactly what I wanted to accomplish on each and every set. So maybe in warm up, my goal was to establish the timing in my breath that I really wanted to hold throughout practice, or the kick that I wanted to maintain. And then maybe during the kick set, my goal was to maintain a certain pace, or a lot of times I used to like alternate freestyle kick and dolphin kick. And that was more to conserve energy than actually to go fast. And so I'd say, I'm going to try to hold one kick the entire kicking set. Then in the pulling set, maybe I try to maintain a higher breathing pattern than I normally do. And then in the main set, I would set a goal for every single lap. I would try to know exactly what I wanted to hold in every lap. And you know what? That accomplished a few things for me. That allowed me to stay very present when I was in training. I never really let my mind wander too much. It allowed me to stay really focused on what I was doing. And so every lap counted that much more. I got more out of every lap. I like to think about practice as a sponge. I'm trying to wring out, I'm trying to get as much benefit. I'm trying to take those numbers at the beginning of the presentation and make them better, right? Make them bigger numbers by getting as much out of practice as I could. And so the other thing that I would do is after practice, I would hold myself accountable to that. I would also, after practice, I would get a copy of the practice printed out for me, and I would hole punch it and I'd put it in a binder, and I'd write down what my goal was at the start of that set and if I did it or not, or how I felt, or what my splits were. And a lot of times I was able to remember every single split. Say we're doing a set of 2200s, I would be able to remember each and every one of those times. I've just got a good memory for numbers, and I'd write them down. And I've got, unfortunately, they're in my parents' basement, which I think they want to get rid of them soon because now I'm a married woman in my own house. But I've got boxes and boxes full of those binders for every year that I swam, every season. And I was able to track my progress. And even if maybe my times in meets for a year or two weren't improving, I would be able to see that my times in practice were, and that drop was going to come, and it would help me stay motivated. It would help me stay confident in myself going into meets, that I know my practice is getting better. I deserve, and I know I'm able to go faster than the time that I have right now. And those little micro goals, they really add up, you guys. They add up and they start making it easier and easier, and you just start checking off each one of those short-term goals. And then those short-term goals just get easier and easier. You just start going through them and you're getting to those long-term goals faster. And before you know it, that dream goal doesn't seem like a dream anymore. That dream goal just seems like a goal. That dream goal seems like something that you could accomplish. And then all of a sudden it's in your rearview mirror, like Tyler and I, where we were able to accomplish that dream that we had set out to achieve when we were just really young swimmers. So it's, when you break it down like this and you lay it out for yourself, it is like how if you were trying to eat an elephant, you're just doing it one bite at a time. It makes it seem really possible. So I've got 3 other rules for goal setting. These are very important, okay? So first of all, personal, okay? I remember a race very distinctly, and I'm not going to tell you which swim meet it was from, but or who it was, but I was swimming in a race, and the girl next to me I knew was much faster than me. And I knew that if I kept up with her, I would make finals because she was so fast. And so I set my goal for that race to keep up with her. And I got in the water and we were racing and I beat her. And I looked at the scoreboard and the time was so slow. And I was like, what the heck? This girl next to me was so fast. She was going to win the whole thing. And we both missed finals because I based my goal on someone else. I was looking at her the whole time. We were probably both looking at each other, and it slowed me down. And now there are some times where being aware of who's around you can help push you to greater things. But I personally, at least for myself, and I don't think everybody's the same in this, I need to keep my goals to things that I can control between the 2 lane lines that I have on either side of me. My goals need to be a certain time, something that I can control, right? My technique, my turns, my start, my dolphin kicks, my breathing pattern, my pacing. I need to keep my goals to myself, because if I start looking around and I start comparing myself to others, it takes away from what I'm trying to do. So keep your goals personal. The next thing is powerful. Your goals should be something that gets you excited. They shouldn't be something that's kind of easy or boring. Make sure that you're setting goals that are challenging. If you're achieving your goal every single time you set one, you got to set harder goals. So make sure that you set powerful goals that get you excited. You want to get something going that gets you out of bed every morning and gets you excited. And the last trick is positive. So I'm going to tell you another story. One time I was at a swim meet, and my coach said to me, it was the last day, last race. My coach said, man, I just did the math. As long as you don't false start in this race, you'll win high point. And I go, oh my gosh, that's awesome. This is, all I have to do is finish this race. So I'm walking over the blocks and I'm thinking to myself, okay, coach said, don't false start, don't false start, don't false start. That's all I've got to do is not false start, don't false start. What do you guys think happened? Anybody want to guess? I got up on the blocks and immediately I flinched and I got disqualified and I lost my high point. The reason that happened is because your brain doesn't recognize the word don't or no. If I say, don't think about a purple hippo, what do you guys think about, right? It's really hard for your brain to identify that you're trying to not think about something, right? You just lose that game right away. So try to use positive language in your goal setting, okay? So instead of saying don't false start, I should have been thinking just finish the race, right? Just finish the race. Have a legal swim. It's really like the minimum that you can do in swimming. Instead of saying don't take a breath on the first stroke off my walls. Instead of saying that, what you want to do is you want to say, keep my head down off my turns. Can you tell how that changes the way that you're thinking? Can you tell that the picture in your head changes as soon as you change that language? Say you're stuck. Has anybody ever been stuck at a barrier, stuck at that 1 minute mark or the 2 minute mark, right? And you're going up to your race and you're thinking, I want to break a minute. What are you picturing in your head? You're picturing that big 1-0-0. You're not picturing the time that you actually want to achieve. So what you want to do is change that language. You want to start thinking, I want to go a 59, or I want to go a 58, or I want to go a 159. And that's going to help make it so much easier. It's going to help you break through those barriers, because that's why those barriers are barriers. It's because you're thinking about what you don't want to achieve. So make sure you focus on what you want to achieve and not what you don't. And so keep your goals personal, make them powerful, and keep them positive. Avoid those negative words, and you'll have a much greater chance of success. All right. So the next thing is make sure your inner team is rooting for you.
Hey, Chloe, just real quick, guys, Jada Ripke, if you keep spamming, I will ban you, or I will ban you. Anybody that's spamming, I'm going to ban you within the next 30 seconds, so knock it off.
Yeah, I've got my chat minimized, so I'm not even paying attention. But, I do have we will try to set aside some time at the very end of this for some Q&A. So keep your questions maybe to yourself for right now. Little comments here and there are fine, but I will leave some time for Q&A at the end. So my next point, I think this is point number 3 or 4. I'm not sure. We'll see. We'll figure it out. But make sure your inner team is rooting for you. So I don't know if this is everybody. This might just be me. But when I am doing anything, I feel like I have like a team of Chloes kind of sitting on the sidelines watching. And there were times in my life where the little team of Chloes sitting in the bleachers on the side of the pool watching me was like, boo, boo, Chloe, you suck. You look ugly, right? There were times in my life where my inner team, or that voice in my head, or all those voices in my head were really negative. And I think everybody goes through probably a phase of like that, here or there, or just has a bad day where they kind of feel like that. And I started really trying to phase out those negative voices, to take those people on the sidelines watching me and booing and replacing them with little Chloes that were cheering me on, that were encouraging, and that were saying really positive and supportive things. So the moral of the story to this is a lot of times the biggest roadblock in achieving a goal is not somebody else or not a physical limitation, but it's the voice in your own head that's just basically doubt, right? And so you got to make sure your inner team is rooting for you. You got to protect your dream. Don't let anybody tell you that you can't do something, including yourself. I know for me, I never really had anybody telling me outside of my head, or I never really gave them any mind if people told me they didn't think I could go to the Olympics, or they didn't think I could achieve a goal. But definitely the voice in my head, that little Chloe that would be sometimes kind of negative, telling me, instead of why not me, telling me, who do you think you are? Why do you think you could do this? And I had to learn how to phase that out. And it's still something that I struggle with all the time. I think it's still something a lot of people struggle with, is how to get their inner voice actually be a cheerleader instead of a naysayer. So I started working on this, and something that happens to me a lot, and I don't know if anybody else can relate, but something that happens to me is I'll have that negative voice in my head, and then I'll get mad at myself, and I'll be even more negative because I'll be upset at myself for feeling that way. I'll be upset at myself for having that negative voice. And it becomes this endless cycle of this negative voice, me being negative about that negative voice, me being hard on myself about that negative voice. And it just makes me get really upset and really frustrated.
Hey,
so
Chloe,
it's not necessarily, yes.
can I interrupt for just 1 second? I'm seeing some people that are getting a little bit distracted by chat. There's a little up here on the right-hand side of your screen, there's a red button with 3 vertical white dots. If you click that button, it'll actually minimize the chat screen all the way off to the right. So if you are getting distracted by the chat, just go ahead and hit that button. It'll minimize it for you. And anybody else that's in here that wants to chat about irrelevant things and not pay attention to the awesome message that Chloe's giving, they can continue to do that and you won't be distracted by them. So sorry, go ahead.
Good. And it doesn't help to just keep saying stop spamming, because then that itself turns into spam. So that's okay.
Yeah, it's exactly like what you said as an example. If I say, don't think about a purple hippo, all you're going to think about is a purple hippo. So if you say stop spamming, all people are going to hear is spam. So don't just minimize it.
Yeah. So I had to learn how to not be judgmental of the voice in my head and say, that's okay to feel that way. And everybody has those feelings sometimes. So I just try to sit down and just kind of observe the thoughts and just listen to them. And I'd start to kind of realize in that process how irrational they were. And I just kind of analyze the patterns without judgment. And I'd start to just kind of not pay any attention, or I'd like send less energy, if that makes sense, to the voices that were negative. And I just kind of guide them away and allow room for positive thoughts. And I'd just be very gentle with myself about that. And it's something that, like I said, I still have to work on all the time. But it's something that's a really powerful skill to have when you're doubting yourself, when you're fearful, when you've got insecurity, to know that you have the ability to change your thoughts. You are in control of the voices that are speaking in your head, and you can guide the negative thoughts away and allow more positivity in. So this kind of brings me to kind of my next point, is visualization. Visualization is super fun, and I think it's really, really beneficial. It can be super powerful. But being able to, just like how we were talking about the positive language, being able to visualize and create your ideal reality. So maybe in a couple of weeks, I'll try to talk to Tyler. He's in charge of the webinar schedule. I'd like to be able to do my full visualization exercise with everybody at some point. Basically, well, here's a slide about the value of visualization. A research study showed that people who carried out virtual weight training workouts, so literally virtual weight training workouts is in you sit and you close your eyes and you picture yourself working out, were actually able to increase their muscle strength by about half the amount of the people that actually did it. If you can really, really seriously visualize yourself working out, you can actually build strength and you can actually improve. And so I've got a whole visualization exercise that I do. And like I said, at some point, I'll probably try to do that here. But the steps to it are starting with some deep breathing exercises. Inhale for 4, hold for 2, exhale for 4. And this just helps you get into that relaxed state. I also like to do different things where if I'm trying to do a visualization exercise, where I'll visualize like water dripping off of my body, or my body like going through a waterfall, where I start at like the top of my head and I just try to relax every muscle and I move down, or I'll start at my toes and move up. Or I visualize myself walking into water or walking into fog, where as I walk in, I feel from my toes all the way up to my head start to relax. But I'll do a different visualization exercise where I just try to visualize something tangible almost, that allows me to continuously relax.
And real quick, just so visualization is so powerful, and there's one really specific example where, like, again, I had historically not been a person who employed a lot of these skills. Like early on, I definitely didn't do anything that Chloe was talking about. And I think I probably would have been better off if I had. But the one time that I decided to give myself a shot at actually doing some visualization was, believe it or not, right before the Olympics in London. I hadn't even done it for the Olympic trials in 2012. It was right before the Olympics in London. And what I decided to do was I would get myself relaxed using, the same basic process that Chloe was just talking about. But then what I did was I thought about all the different ways the race could go. Like I thought, what I would do if I found myself at the 100 and I was leading, what I would do if I found myself in last at the 100 mark. And this is in relation to my 200 backstroke, for example. And I thought about how I would react in all these different situations. I also thought about how all the different things that might go wrong, not necessarily to try and psych myself out, but to think about what I would do, how I'd react if my goggles broke, what I would do if my suit ripped and my butt fell out on worldwide television. That's happened before. Like I thought about all these different things that could go right, that could go wrong. And by doing that, I felt so much more confident as I walked onto the deck for the Olympic final, because I knew what I was going to do in basically any situation that I could think of. And there's a lot of security and comfort in that. So what she's talking about is so amazingly powerful, and I want you guys to really try to employ a lot of what Chloe's talking about.
Yeah. So after that's great, Tyler. Yeah. So after the deep breathing, I like to go to a sanctuary. So a sanctuary is any place you can go in your mind just to escape the world for a little bit. It can be a beach, a forest, or your own bed at home, but you feel totally safe here. So when I lived in Southern California, there's a beach that I used to go to that usually didn't have anybody on it. And I would just kind of sit and watch the waves. And it was somewhere I felt safe. There was nowhere I had to be. There was nothing I had to do. I could just kind of sit there. And so this was where I would go also in like the ready room before my race. I would sit and I would kind of visualize myself in my safe place. And it would just help me kind of relax. It's a place you can kind of go in your mind. And the more often you go there, the easier it is to get there and the easier it is to really truly be there. But you want to really imagine all of your senses. You want to see and hear everything that is normally there. You want to have the same smells. You want to feel the sand in your toes or your bed behind your back, but I like to always have like kind of a safe place I would go. And this helps me fall asleep at night too. I usually try to go to my sanctuary, I call it, in bed at night. Then I kind of repeat some positive affirmations. Something fun to do also, you might sound like a little bit of a crazy person, but you can record some positive sayings on your phone and then play them back to yourself. But I try to have a couple of positive affirmations, just talking about, like the examples that I have here, things that I just want to constantly kind of remind myself. Maybe there's an insecurity I have, maybe I'm trying to just have a better attitude. I would have a little affirmation like, I am a positive person and I'm encouraging to myself and my teammates, something that you're working on, something you want to be better at. You can repeat a couple of positive affirmations to help you get closer to being that person you want to be. Then I actually visualize my race. Whatever race you want to do. Tyler, like you said, he likes to visualize all the different ways your race can go. I think that's fantastic too. You can do it from a first person point of view. A lot of times I actually did it from like a third person point of view where I was like hovering over myself, watching the race happen. I think however you want to visualize it, whatever works for you can be great. And then something really cool that I used to do too is I would try to visualize my race and I would actually time it and see how close I could actually get to visualizing my actual goal time. And that takes some practice to try to really have that awareness. Now, my favorite part is then I'd visualize a race as my inner superhero. So I'd finish the race as normal Chloe, see the celebration, really feel it. But then I would do another visualization where as soon as I hear the beep, I would see myself like develop like fins and like rocket packs out of my back and like big flippers on my feet. And I would see myself transform into like this superhuman creature. This was really valuable to me because like Tyler was talking about at the beginning, like neither Tyler or I are all that tall. I'm about 5'8", which I know is pretty tall for a woman, but you know, most of the girls that I used to race against, you know, like I did a cooking show, Sierra Runge on Thursday. Sierra and I used to race all the time. She's 6'4", you know, Missy Franklin's 6'2", you know, Katie Ledecky's really tall also. I would feel pretty short next to these girls. And it would be hard for me, and I don't know if it's just an insecurity thing or what, but it would be hard for me to picture this body, which is just very normal, doing anything all that exciting. Like I couldn't visualize sometimes me actually doing it. So I had to become like my inner superhero, my inner like Sasha Fierce, you know, and that would allow me when I actually went to race, I would put on my cap and goggles and kind of watch myself transform into this inner superhero. And it would give me this.
Nope, I think we've lost Chloe for a second. So Chloe, you froze for just a second. So go back like 3 or 4 seconds.
Okay. So I would have trouble visualizing myself, just little old Chloe, just my regular body, actually doing anything, you know, actually achieving the goals that I set for myself. So I'd, you know, when I was getting ready for a race, I would put on my cap and goggles, I would put on my swimsuit, and I would visualize myself through that process, kind of transforming into this inner superhero, this person that could achieve anything, right? Not just little old Chloe, but actually Chloe Sutton, right? Chloe Sutton, the Olympian, who can do anything, who can beat girls no matter how tall or how big or how confident they are. And that would just help me really believe that I could actually achieve it, is I had this little secret inside of me, this extra special Chloe that could do anything that she wanted to do. That's something that really helps me, not only in swimming, but now when I lead swim camps, there was a long time where I was like, why does anybody actually want to listen to me? God bless you, Tyler. Why does anybody really think that what I have to say can be valuable? And this was actually after I'd already been to 2 Olympic Games. It's like, no, I did something great and I know my stuff and I've been studying the sport my whole life. So I would visualize myself before I went to lead a swim clinic. I would visualize myself becoming a superhero, somebody that had the superpower of teaching kids all around the world how to swim faster. It would give me the superpower of speaking in front of groups of people, where initially that was something that I was really afraid of. Even when getting ready for this webinar, I definitely put on my magic underpants today and became a superhero that was capable of speaking about a subject for an hour, you know. So it can be something that helps you in everything that you do, to kind of have that super secret person inside of you that's still you, but that's capable of a lot. You can transform when you want to. My next point is let positive feelings fuel your desire. So I talked about in my visualization a little bit earlier, really visualizing your celebration. I think that's super duper important, because you want to seek out, at least for me, you want to seek out that feeling. You want to go into a race remembering that one time you achieved your goal and you want to go, I want that feeling again. And if you really visualize your celebration and how good it's going to feel, you know, high-fiving your teammates, hugging your mom, your coach giving you a nice firm handshake, at least that's what my coach always gave me when I did something great. It would be the fuel behind my desire. It would be the thing that really got me through, especially like that third 50 of the 200 or that third 100 of the 400. It'd get me through that hard part of the race and help me finish really strong. So plan your touchdown dance, plan your celebration. Know exactly what you're going to do when you achieve that goal. Maybe you're going to go get an ice cream cone with your friends, or maybe, I don't know, maybe you're going to buy yourself that purse you've been looking at for a long time, right, Tyler? You know, you guys can try to figure out something to look forward to. For a lot of my really, really early swimming days, probably until I was about 10, my grandpa used to give me $10 every time I achieved a goal time. And it wasn't that much money or anything. And it all just kind of went into a like college fund for me. But just knowing that if I got my goal time, my grandpa was going to give me $10. It was something that, I don't know, added a little bit of fuel to my fire, got me a little bit more excited about racing fast. And anything you guys can do to get yourself more excited about your goals, I think can be really positive. So plan it out, figure out what you're going to do, play in your touchdown dance. Like I said, I come from a family of football players. So this little routine I've got here, that's exactly, that was planned. That was how I was going to do it. So, and I touched on this already, but visualizing that celebration, there comes a time in every race where you have to make the choice, right? Dun, dun, dun. Where you're at that point in the race where you could back off a little bit, where you're really tired, where your legs are dying, where you can't quite catch your breath, where you think, it would be okay to come in second. I remember, visualizing for a major competition, and throughout the whole season, I had visualized myself standing on top of the medal podium with a gold medal around my neck. And then I got into the race, it was an 800. I'm at that like 600 mark where it really starts to hurt. And I remember the girl next to me was starting to pull away a little bit. And I came to the choice moment, right? And I visualized in my head, a silver would be okay. I could live with a silver. Silver's still great. It's still a medal, second place. That's still great, But then I was like, no, right? I started visualizing the difference between celebrating a silver medal and celebrating a gold medal. And I was like, I've been visualizing that gold medal celebration. I have that celebration all planned out. I don't have a planned speech for thanks for my silver medal, Visualizing that celebration allows you to choose either to give into the fatigue or push through the pain. Visualize how good it feels to accomplish that goal and use that to help you make the right decision, to get that little bit of extra energy to push through and to finish strong. I believe this is my last slide. Don't be afraid to fail. It only makes you stronger. Tyler and I will say it over and over again. It's not like we won every race. We didn't swim well every time. We failed a lot. I told you guys earlier about a story of me from false starting, getting disqualified when I was like 17 or 18 years old. Don't be afraid of failure. It's a part of the process. This is another little quote I found. Why they tell you to not look down? Because the fall doesn't get any higher. It's because focusing on the consequence of failing is neither relevant nor helpful. The growth mindset is very important to have, is to look at every swim as an opportunity to learn from it. If you see this little super complicated flow chart I've made, you either, did I achieve my goals in this race? Yes, celebrate it. Make sure you take the time to celebrate, but then make a new goal and learn from that race. Nobody ever swims a perfect race, so learn from it. Or did I achieve my goals in this race? No, I didn't. So figure out what went wrong, figure out what you can do to be better, and learn from it. Every single race, no matter what, you have the opportunity to grow and to learn from it. Allow yourself the opportunity to celebrate if you did achieve your goal, but still learn from it. And if you didn't achieve your goal, if you know that you can do a lot better, learn from it and celebrate the fact that you had an opportunity to learn today. I think that's one of the things that holds people back the most, is being fearful of failure and letting that hold you back from actually trying to achieve your goals. So don't be afraid of it. Go for it and use every opportunity as a learning opportunity. So I had 6 points that I kind of covered today, and I'm going to be able to have a few minutes for questions here. First of all, give yourself permission to dream. Like Tyler said, ask yourself, why not me? The next one is create goal systems. So plan out the way that you're going to achieve your dreams. Make sure your inner team is rooting for you. Make sure you always have positive voices encouraging you in your head. Visualize success to create your ideal reality. Be able to see yourself achieving your goal. Take that time for yourself when you're out of the water, especially right now, to just lay down on the bed or sit in a chair and visualize yourself swimming. And it'll actually help you guys right now quite a bit, even though you can't get in the water. Let positive feelings fuel your desire. Some people do like to get angry before races. Some people do like to be competitive in that way. But to me, I think it's a much healthier mindset to let positive feelings to fuel your desire, to let those celebrations set out to achieve what you want to achieve. And while Tyler said, I think it's important to plan for what would you do if something did go wrong, because you have to be able to be adaptable. That's very important. But it is good to let positive feelings fuel your desire. And then the last point is, don't be afraid to fail. It only makes you stronger. Make sure you learn from every experience and are constantly growing. So, questions?
Yeah, so everybody in chat, let us know if you have any questions related specifically to what Chloe was just talking about. While everybody's writing out their question, I have a good one for us to talk about. Chad Steed asks, what is the best mental trick when you dive in during warm-up and you don't feel great? Questioning your taper before your first race. And I would actually answer that question with another question, Chad. What about how you're feeling means anything towards your performance? I think when you are looking for reasons why you might not do well, you're already in a bad state. So when you dive in for warm-up, if you don't feel that great, stretch a little bit more. Maybe you need to swim a little bit more, but that doesn't necessarily immediately mean that you're going to have a bad performance. Chloe, what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I have two little tricks that I would do for that, because I can relate to that for sure. So the first thing is I would say good. If I feel like crap right now, that's good. That means something extra good is going to happen today. And I would try to convince myself of that. And I know that might sound silly, but I remember telling even my friend Marina recently, she was getting ready for a swim meet, and she said, I just don't feel that great. And I said, good. If you feel good, good. If you feel awful, good. You feel something. That means you're going to race fast, right? That means you care and it's going to go well. Or the second thing that I would do is I would blame it on something silly. So say I got in for warm up and I just didn't feel right. I'd be like, oh, well, I need to adjust my goggles. And I'd stop. And I'd take a moment to adjust my goggles, and the whole time I'd be thinking, I just need to adjust my goggles a little bit. And maybe even adjust it like a millimeter, But I would just adjust a little bit and be like, this is going to fix it. This is going to make me feel good. And this was the thing that was wrong when I first dove in. Put my goggles on, and you have to believe it with your whole heart. But then I would say, okay, now I feel good. And that would be kind of a trick that I would use to fix it. So it would be fixable.
That's a great idea. That's something that I had ever thought about. There's another question that I'm seeing a lot is, how do you stay positive after a bad race or after you add time or something? And I think that the question or the trick there, chat, is that even the best swimmers in the world, after they have a bad race, we feel terrible. I would get so mad, so frustrated, and that's normal. Actually, I think you should allow yourself to get a little bit upset, and that just means that you care, right? If you didn't get upset after a bad race, I would question how much you actually care about the sport. But the difference between a good athlete and a great athlete is that they're able to allow themselves to get upset. Then they can sit there and learn, okay, what went wrong? What can I do better? And what can I take from that experience? And then they can put it in the past because it's already gone. There's nothing you can do about it. And the best athletes in the world, like Michael Phelps, for example, he had a lot of meets where he had to swim 8 events in a meet. And I'm sure that there were a multitude of different times where he didn't swim exactly the way he wanted, but he had to get over that because he had a lot more events to swim. So you have to keep that in mind that it's okay to get upset after a race, but you have to find something to learn from and then leave it alone.
Yeah, that's a great point. I would do pretty similar to my last answer is I'd be like, okay, good. That means that didn't work. Learn, you're right. I would try to be like, oh, well, of course that wasn't a great swim. I would try to blame it on something silly, like the second point to the last question. I would be like, oh, well, this is why it went wrong. I try to just be really rational with it. A lot of times once you get to a certain level, Tyler and I had every single one of our races recorded by USA Swimming. A lot of you guys, you can have a friend record your race, your parent record your race, go back, look at it and be like, oh, look, last time I took 12 strokes on this lap. This time I took 13. Of course I didn't have a bad swim. Next time I got it. Now I know what to do. Now I can fix it. I was all about, and sometimes there isn't something you see. Sometimes there isn't something that was wrong. And that's when I would just blame it on something silly. I would be like, oh, well, of course I waved at my mom with my right hand instead of my left hand that time. So I can fix that next time. But if you dwell on it too much, it's important to learn from it. But if you dwell on it too much, that's not adding anything. That's not helping you to be a better swimmer. So being able to learn from it and then move on is an important skill to have. But like Tyler said, I definitely had a lot of races where I cried for days afterwards. A lot of big races that I lost, a lot of teams I missed. And that's okay to let yourself feel that too, but just let it add to your fire. Let it make sure it doesn't happen again is what I used to say to myself too.
Yeah. All right. We're going to answer, I'll let Chloe answer, pick out one or two more questions that we want to answer. And in the meantime, if you guys are ready to head on out, I've shown a link to our app up on your screen. You should see that in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. We have an app called Swim Videos on Demand. And if you're interested in learning about some drills and seeing some explanations from our top clinicians, me and Chloe included, go over there and check that out. There's a free trial. Give it a shot. See if you like it. But just click on that button and it'll take you right on over to the page. So we'll finish up with a couple of questions and then we'll call it.
Yeah. A lot of the questions you guys are asking the answer is going to be, it depends on you. I think Tyler and I probably had a lot of differences in our mindset getting ready for races. Like one of the questions is, when do you visualize? Do you visualize at night or during the day or before a race? And it really just, you have to figure out what you like to do. I would visualize more. I wouldn't do it at night because I didn't want to just go to sleep after I visualized. I would do it more like maybe sometime midday or in the morning to kind of give me energy throughout the day. I felt like it was a good way to start the day. And then I wouldn't really do it before a race. I would do it throughout the season, throughout the week. But then when I get to a swim meet, I would try to turn off my brain and let my body take over. What about you, Tyler? When would you do visualization, or when would you think about your race, and when would you turn that off?
So I would kind of do visualization a couple of days leading up to a meet, and then the day of, like as soon as the competition started, I would stop that, because I'm a really big believer that you program your own brain. And after you get to a certain point, with your visualization, with your training, that you should just get out of the way and let your subconscious mind do what you've trained it to do. A lot of people will ask me, how do I what can I do to get faster right before a meet? And the answer is nothing. Right before the meet, you've set like a certain potential for your performance. Let's say that's here. If you overthink things leading into the race and you get in your own way, you might only get to here. But if you let your body do what you've trained it to do, and that includes your brain, you're much more likely to reach that potential. And that's just sort of how I handled that. And I see some questions about, should I, how should I handle like pre-race, my pre-race emotions? Some people get nervous. I actually found that if I swam better when I was angry. I wasn't thinking about like all the small details of my race, but I found that if I had like a little bit of anger inside, that I was able to push through that pain just a little bit better. I was able to push out some of the pre-race nerves that I might not be able to control. And that was just sort of how I responded. But everybody's different. Some people like to go into a super Zen state. I generally was like wired up, like, just kind of just a little bit of healthy anger is what I would call it.
Yeah. I remember you and I were on a mixed medley relay at a World Cup. I remember you getting really hyped up in the ready room. And I like to giggle. I like to laugh in the ready room. So Tyler and I are different in that way, right? I'd like to I was always in the ready room with Allison Schmidt. She was the one that I raced against in like the 200 and 400. And she's really funny. So she and I just sit there and giggle and laugh and tell each other jokes. But, a lot of the, like I said, a lot of the questions are, this whole presentation was, this is what's worked for me. I'm not a psychologist or anything. This is what's worked for me. These are the things that I've found work for me. And these are the ways that I feel like I have been able to help some other swimmers that I know. And if you relate to me, this probably will help you. But everybody's a little different. Some people do like to, really get angry. Some people like to focus on just like getting mad and the negative stuff before their races. I know a lot of people who do that. And that can be the only thing that really gets people to that level that they can really swim fast. So remember, I'm also a distance swimmer, so I didn't need to get super hyped before my races. I needed to be calm and relaxed so that I could last through the whole race. But everybody's a little bit different. And a lot of people are asking too about pre-race anxiety, about negativity, about comparison. And, you know, go back and watch the section where I talked about making sure your inner voice is on your team. You are in control of your feelings. You're in control of how you react to those feelings. And it's okay to feel feelings. It's okay to notice yourself comparing yourself to others. It's okay to get nervous. It's okay to get mad. It's okay to get upset. It's okay to have those feelings. And so the first thing you shouldn't do is judge yourself for that. Make sure that if your question is, how do I deal with this, that, or the other emotion that I'm having, let yourself feel it for a moment, but then just don't give it any energy. Sometimes our mind isn't right. Sometimes we think things that are silly or that don't really mean anything, and that's okay. Just gently guide those thoughts through, let them pass through, okay? And then allow more room for more positive feelings. Like actively bring things, actively bring in thoughts. They're going to help you be happy and positive.
Yeah.
If that is what helps you. Some people do race angry and they're going to bring those feelings in, but, you know, make sure that they don't fester.
Yeah. And, you know, I like to talk about pre-race nerves in two different categories, right? Over here, you have the anxiety type of nerves. And then over here, you have the good type of nervousness, which is what I call anticipation. So a lot of times people get into, you know, their pre-race routine and they start feeling this nervousness and they think it's a bad thing. And oftentimes it isn't always a bad thing. Oftentimes it's like, I'm nervous because I'm ready. Like I want to go execute. And you can make sure that you're in more of that good type of nervousness if you've had good preparation leading into your meet. So if at practice you've been practicing your kick counts off the wall, you know what your stroke counts are, you know what your race strategy is, you know you're prepared for anything that can go wrong. That means you're much more likely to be the excited type of nervous, the good type of nervous, instead of being afraid nervous, if that makes any sense. So you can control those pre-race nerves by controlling what you do leading up to the meet. So instead of going to practice and just swimming laps back and forth to make coach happy, start using those practices as an opportunity to rehearse the way you want to race. And then when you get to the meet, you know exactly how that's going to go, and your nervousness is going to be good. If anybody in chat's ever heard of the fight or flight response, that's a very natural response that all humans have. And your body is capable of some very amazing things when in that response. And those good nerves are just the very beginning of that fight or flight response. So use that to your advantage instead of letting it scare you.
Yeah. All right. I think that's about all we have time for. You guys can feel free to message me on Instagram or message Fitter and Faster on Instagram. I can access those as well. If you guys have any further questions, or tune in to, we're doing these all the time, so tune into another to ask any other questions. This replay, the video of this presentation will be available on fitterandfaster.com/replays within the next few hours. You will also get an email directing you to the direct link of the video of this replay, so you can watch it again. And Tyler, we have another webinar today, right?
Yep, we have a webinar later today that I'm actually hosting with Chris Reed. It's called Breaking Down Backstroke, which is my best stroke. So we're gonna, I'm gonna let Chris kind of lead that discussion in a way, and I'll help, with him and chime in. But if you have any interest in improving your backstroke, go over to fitterandfaster.com/live and find Breaking Down Backstroke and sign up for that sucker. And we're going to put on another good show for you. And then, of course, we have a lot of different shows for this week. We have 10 more after this one, just for this week. Make sure you check out all the other different topics that you might be interested in and register for each one of those. So you have to sign up for each one, but I promise it'll be worth it. So come and join us again. Thanks for coming.
All right. Bye, everybody. Thank you.